Finally, we come to maybe the most potent of all kinds of beauty. It's the kind of beauty that anyone who's had a deeply religious experience will be quite familiar with. I'm going to call this sublime beauty, but you can call it what you will. I think this one's quite interesting. I have to preface this with just admitting that I am not religious. I don't believe in any divine force at all. But that doesn't mean I can't see how compelling a sort of transcendental experience could be. In fact, I think that I'm going to just say the same thing I've been saying the whole time. There's something innate, I think, about religious experience. I think in a way we are a religious creature. Now, this is going to be contentious, I'm sure, but I do think, and this is me as an atheist, that there's something inside us that compels us towards religious ideas. It would explain why religious ideas are absolutely universal. They're everywhere. They come in different forms, that's true. But belief in a higher divine force, whether it's embodied in a deity, a specific like human-like entity, or whether it's something more abstract, that's held pretty much universally across the world, except by certain kinds of agnostics and atheists. But that's a relatively new phenomenon. So I think we're sort of built to have these kinds of experiences. I haven't had one myself. I think if I had, I probably would be religious. But I think it's something we could probably draw back to an idea that I've referenced more than once, is this idea of the dissolution of self. I think that there's something kind of disconcerting about being human. There's something that embodies maybe a baseline level of anxiety or dread, existential dread, if you will. We don't really know why we're here. We don't really know what we're doing. Sometimes we get the sense that this whole thing's so pointless and silly and meaningless. And we also have just daily concerns, more earthly concerns, paying the bills, dealing with problematic social relationships, getting a new job, all that kind of stuff. Eating well. I don't want to go on with that list. It's 1,000 items long. But there's something I think very appealing to having all of that slip away. To enter a state where not only do you not think about your daily concerns, but you're not even you. You are brought into a realm where the borders of you and the world and of God and of other people disappears. And there's just unity, the feeling of unity, unified with the divine, unified with others, unified with nature, whatever that unity, whatever form that unity comes in for you. I think that I do understand why that's such a powerful feeling, and why that could then be followed by ideas about a divine figure, because it has a feeling of being sort of bigger than you, bigger than just a human. It can't be just defined in human terms. It just feels so much larger and more important and vital than that. And yeah, as I said, I haven't had that specific experience, but I think I do have experiences like this. And maybe this is where I can bring this into the realm of writing. I mean, obviously you can write about experiences with God and the divine in writing. That's true, so it can be useful there. But also, I think that the most potent reason for my being a writer is that when it works really well, when I'm up in the morning before the world has sort of woken and I'm in my own space and it's just me and my mind and the text that I'm making, there are moments where I forget I exist, where some world, this fictional world, is unveiling itself to me, as if I'm nothing but an audience, the audience itself. I'm just as surprised by the story that's coming to me as the reader will be when I've written it. And that this is such an out-of-body experience that I sort of become the idea that I'm having. There is no difference between me, this bodily, fleshly thing, and the idea. And I start to get a strange sense that there's just one, or unity. I do get fleeting senses of this kind of unity, and it's because a sense of myself as being separate slips away, at least momentarily. I suspect that many of you have had feelings like this, and it seems to me that it's got to be very hard to be a writer at all if you never have this experience. I don't know why you would put up with the grotesque pain and misery that writing can bring with it. It's an absolute struggle at times. Without that beauty, that sublime beauty that you get in the early hours of the morning when it's just you and the universe kind of melding into each other, without that transcendental experience, it's hard to see how I would go on with it at all. I think I'm chasing that dragon, and that's what propels me forward as a writer through the nuts and bolts and the nitty-gritty and the difficulty that writing brings with it. So I think this kind of beauty matters in that sense, but also, I mean, who wouldn't like for their written word to bring on a sort of transcendental state in a reader? I don't know if I'm capable of this. I would love, I want to move people more than anything. That's what I want. If I could move someone to that place of being, that would be phenomenal. And obviously there are some texts that really do this. This is the power of certain religious texts. I don't get, though I do find religious texts fascinating, I don't get that transcendental experience. I imagine that there are many people who do. And that's part of the appeal of these texts, and part of what gives people a sense that this must come from a divine figure, because it connects people with the sublime. Yeah, I'm not going to give you advice on how to do this, because I'm not sure I know how to do this, but I think it's certainly clear that this kind of sublime beauty underpins really great writing, and maybe some of the great masterpieces, and certainly some of the great philosophical and religious writing of not just this age, but of ages gone by. So I think it's appropriate to land on sublime beauty because it is, in some sense, the ultimate beauty, and it's the one maybe we're all chasing in our lives.